Hey, everybody. Welcome to Therapeutic Wisdom from the AKASH. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So happy to see you all here. I am going to share out. Please do so yourself for anyone who needs to discuss abandonment. My name is Knapp Mazzotta. I am the Akashic therapist. I have been a therapist for almost 20 years now, and I have started to integrate, I've been integrating a lot of physical healing, therapeutic healing, obviously, spiritual healing, energetic healing into my traditional practice. And I have found such amazing, effective, and efficient levels of healing now with my clients, with myself, with my loved ones. So I am now committed to sharing the Akashic Records with anyone who will listen because it is an absolutely phenomenal modality with infinite possibilities. And I am so eager to share it with you. Also, say hello if you guys are hopping on. Just so you know, I will not see your comments if you're tuning in from the Akashic Academy or if you're tuning in on Emerge Healing and Wellness, because the comments here live show up on Awoken TV. So if you guys have comments or questions, please jump on my on the Awoken TV page so that I can make sure to connect with you guys. I love interacting with the audience and I love getting an idea of what's going on with you. Let me know, raise your hand in the comments if you have experienced abandonment issues, if you're questioning whether you're experiencing abandonment issues, and if there's anybody in your life who feels the same. And you are welcome to share this to any of them so that they can also get additional support. So for those of you who have not been on Awoken TV before, you can find Awoken TV at www.awoken.tv. And this is an area where there's a lot of conscious filmmakers and light workers and spiritual, it's like a spiritual Netflix. There's a lot of healers and entrepreneurs there who are offering courses and films to support you in your awakening and healing process. There's also an app in the App Store, so you guys can find the Awoken TV app in the App Store as well. Okay, so for those of you who are just jumping on, I'm just doing a quick share out here to some groups and to some pages. Please feel free to share this with anyone that you think could benefit from getting an additional healing and love surrounding abandonment, okay? All right, so I'm also going to be checking my phone here every once in a while. Hi, Shamika. Thank you for saying hello so that I know that the comments are working. I'm also going to be checking my phone from time to time just to make sure that I'm not missing anyone who's coming in and saying hello. Okay, so hi everybody. Thanks for joining me on a Saturday night. I typically go live on Friday mornings at 10 a.m. Eastern time, but with current COVID precautions, my children have been virtual learning for the first few weeks of school. So starting next week, I'm going to be back to my original time, which is on Fridays at 10 a.m. Eastern. So I'm looking forward to sharing again with you all and having you guys tune in. Okay. So I am almost done here. I am done. Yay. So now we can just hang out and chat. All right. So what is abandonment? Abandonment issues come up for a lot of my clients. They come up for a lot of my loved ones. And the way that abandonment is defined, just generally defined, is the ceasing of support. Okay, so people feel like somebody has stopped supporting them or that they've given up on them completely. All right, and then how this ends up presenting is that people end up giving up on themselves. They internalize that mentality, they internalize that belief system, and they give up on themselves. So they can feel like they were abandoned by parents, by caregivers, by people that they were really reliant on or that they're connected to in their lives. And they give up. They give up on themselves and they get into this victim mentality of, oh my gosh, I was abandoned or I was neglected. And so now I don't have any options, or now I'm weak, or I don't have resources available to me. I'm out here all alone, right? I did a live months ago on loneliness. You can check that out on my YouTube channel. Really helpful. I used the structure that came from Teal Swan's book, The Anatomy of Loneliness. So that's something I would recommend. But what happens is you end up in that victim mentality because you're blaming the other person. You're blaming the parents, you're blaming the caregivers or the loved ones that you feel have ceased to support you or have given up on you completely. So for any of you who have been in the healing world for a while or have been doing a lot of self-development work, it's very possible that you already know that when other people are engaging with you or interacting in a certain way, it's a reflection of themselves. It's a reflection of what's going on within them and areas that they need to heal. So if somebody gives up on you completely, where do you think that comes from? It could come from their own fears that they don't know how to help you. They don't know how to care for you. It could come from their lack of resources and skills. It could come from their own lack of confidence that they've given up on themselves completely. That doesn't mean that the impact doesn't still come through and affect you, for sure. But it's important to have a context, because what happens is people really personalize this issue. They personalize it and they feel like something's wrong with them, right? Something's wrong with them because they've been abandoned or neglected. They're somehow deficient in some way. They're not worthy enough. Okay, and this is a misinterpretation. It's just not accurate. It's more accurate to look at the other person or situation and determine, what is it about their scenario or about how they feel about themselves that interferes with their ability to be there for me? Instead of assuming, oh, what made them cease to support me? What made them give up completely? I must be a total loss. So they're not banking on me. They're not betting on me. When it has absolutely nothing to do with you and everything to do with them. So that's number one, is really to evaluate getting a context, right, for where they're coming from and where they are feeling deficient or flawed in some way. Hi, Lisa. Hi, Barbie. Thanks for being here, guys. Okay, so when we end up having long-term issues with abandonment, it's because we end up still looking outside of ourselves for that support and for that faith, having somebody have faith in us, because we're lacking it. And what we really need to do is find our own selves as our own foundation, secure ourselves within ourselves, not give up on ourselves, do the opposite, turn towards ourselves and make ourselves our primary investment of time and energy and love. So it's very similar to the inner child work and reparenting paradigm that's being shared a lot right now. This idea of really getting in touch with that little person within each of us and being able to reparent in a way that we would have liked to be parented or cared for during those times when we felt we were abandoned. We need to find safety and security. And yes, we can still do that temporarily with the people in our lives or situations in our lives, but it's better for us to really cultivate that within ourselves, to find yourself as your own safe foundation. Okay? Because when we rely on other people, what we're doing is we're relying on them to fulfill our sense of wholeness and worthiness, whereas we are innately and inherently worthy, inherently deserving. Okay? And when we don't fully believe that and we don't fully act on that and we are desperately clinging to those people that are in our lives because we're afraid of losing them, we're giving the universe the message that we are not worthy unless we have this other person in our lives. We are not central. We are not deserving, right? And that we only determine our worthiness based on a parent or authority figure, how they've treated us, whether they've respected us, whether they've abandoned us. Don't give somebody else that much power. Human beings are naturally going up and down. Right? The average person, I posted, I think it was yesterday or today, the average person has 21 mood changes a day. Right? Hi, Nancy. Thanks for being here. Okay, so if we're having all these mood changes and we signed up to be humans in this lifetime, our soul signed up for this mission. We've signed up for the trials and tribulations as well. So if we return to that knowledge of, yeah, I chose this. And so I know very confidently that I'm learning the lessons that I need to learn and that I'm moving forward and that I'm growing and I'm expanding. And I'm even stronger and better and more ascended as a soul than I was before. If we can return to that, then we know how worthy we are. And we don't have to rely on other people's feedback to be able to let us know that and confirm that for us, okay? So we need to also claim that we can stand on our own, right? Because we're giving the universe this message that we are not able to go alone. We are not able to feel strong and supported and confident without the feedback from someone else. This is where codependency comes from, right? Codependency comes in where we don't have boundaries with other people. We feel the same things as other people in our lives. We have trouble with not absorbing that. And why does that come up? Because we're afraid we're being rejected. Ultimately, abandonment is about rejection. I feel like I am scared out of my mind that I'm going to be rejected again, that I'm going to lose this support again. So you're living in a state of fear, right? And we don't want to call more fear towards ourselves. Hey, Michelle, thanks for being here. Okay, so we feel that if this person leaves us or this person no longer supports us, that we are then going to cease to have a happy existence or cease to be able to function or cease to be able to make decisions. But we are basing part of our identity on this person or on this situation that we're connected to. Okay, and nothing really holds that much power over us unless we allow it to. We need to get in touch with our core power that's consistently flowing from the universe. And the only time that flow is blocked is when we block it. So if we open ourselves to it, then we always have the ability to flow with the support that's naturally available to us. Okay, so there's also another piece here that we operate on this mistaken assumption that we are meant to have these relationships for a lifetime, or that we are meant to have the relationships that we want to have or engage in situations that we want for the rest of our lives or for a certain period of time, right? That's not our decision. It's our soul's decision. It's not our ego's decision. So there are some soul contracts that we have with people or contracts that we have with certain situations that we're supposed to be learning from that we made a decision about before we even incarnated into this human body. So I don't know how many of you have read The Energy Codes by Dr. Sue Morter. It's an excellent book and I highly recommend it. And one of the things that she talks about is this analogy called the bus stop, that we're all waiting as souls at the bus stop, way up there in the ether and the AKASH and heaven, whatever name you give to it. And we're all waiting up there as souls, and we're waiting in line to get on the next bus. And we make a decision as souls, what other souls we're getting onto the bus with, and which life we're going to, based on the lessons that we know we need to learn to be able to continue to grow and ascend as souls, to heighten our frequency. So those souls that you've decided to get on the bus with, some of those souls you've decided to sit next to on the bus and hold their hand. Some of those souls are way in the back. Some of those souls are stuck in the bathroom and they're locked in there. Some of those souls are driving the freaking bus. So they all have a different role. Okay, and we need to appreciate that this role was selected by our divinely intelligent wisdom that exists within us. And when our soul has made that decision, it's also decided, well, you know what, Joe Schmo's only going to be here for 3 days. And, Henrietta, she's only going to be here for 6 months. Right? Because there are teachers that come into our lives to help us learn certain lessons. And these teachers are things to be grateful for, people, situations to be grateful for, because they have chosen to join us on this journey and maybe even sacrifice themselves a little bit in order to forward our soul's mission. To put themselves in a position where they cross our paths and there might be some abrasion or tension or abandonment that occurs, which doesn't put them in the greatest light. But they've served you to heighten your sense of consciousness and awareness to be able to learn a lesson to move you forward. So let me know if that's confusing, if that makes sense to you. And for those of you who just hopped on, I will not be able to see your comments here live unless you're on the Awoken TV page. I will be able to catch comments on Emerge Healing and Wellness in the Akashic Academy after the live, but I'm only able to see the comments here on Awoken TV page. So you can jump over there if you need to. Okay, so I'm just going to check out my notes here and see what else I have, and a couple other points here I'd like to make about abandonment. And please let me know what questions you have and how you're experiencing this. If you guys are kind of lurking in the background, I want you to challenge yourself to say hello, give me an emoji, give me a high five, whatever it is you need. But I want you to challenge yourself to be seen here, to say hello, and to receive this wisdom that's coming through. Okay. So oh, yeah. So there's a few different ways that people respond to rejection. Because, like I said earlier, ultimately, abandonment is about rejection. Okay. We're afraid of being rejected again. We're afraid of rejecting ourselves, and we are rejecting ourselves in the process. Okay. So, rejection, the way we respond to that, one of the ways that people respond to rejection, and I want you to give me a 1 in the comments if this is the way you respond to rejection. Do you get really desperate and into people-pleasing mode? Because that's one of the classic responses to rejection. Well, I'm just going to blow sunshine up their ass and do everything they say because I'm desperate to keep them around so that they don't leave me. When really what you're doing in this situation, hey Tara, oh, I'm so glad this resonates. Really what you're doing in that is you're disempowering yourself and you're disempowering them, because first of all, you're choking the relationship to death. You're burdening the relationship because you're basically saying, like, please, 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 please don't leave me. Please, 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 please don't leave me. And if you do, I'm going to fall apart. Talk about pressure, right? Talk about putting pressure on a relationship. And you feeling like you're constantly people pleasing, that's not you showing up authentically. How is that relationship going to work out? How is that situation going to work out well if you're not showing up authentically? Because guess what? Ultimately, your number is going to come up, my friend, and they're going to be able to tell that you can't sustain this long term. You're going to wear yourself out. You're going to get sick, or you're going to develop depression or another mental illness, right? And you're not going to be able to move forward well. So you're heightening your chances of success by being authentically yourself, because guess what? Then these soul contracts have the ability to play themselves out in a way that they're meant to, rather than us placing our human agenda on it and putting all of these boundaries in place to keep these relationships in our lives because we're scared, rather than allowing these soul contracts to fulfill their purpose and to follow the timeline that they're meant to. Hey, Carla. Thanks for being here. Okay, so number 2, the first way to respond to rejection, I just told you to give me a 1 in the comments, was people pleasing and like feeling desperate, like desperate to people please and to grip onto somebody. Number 2 is feeling down, self-doubt. Okay, so how many of you really turn it towards yourself and say, I suck, I'm terrible? You get self-critical, you can even get self-injurious. And self-injurious can be self-harm, it can be substance use, it can be any kind of risky behaviors, compulsive shopping, compulsive eating, things like that. But really turning it towards yourself, right? Because ultimately you're doubting yourself. You're thinking, I don't know if I'm like all that in a bucket of chicken, right? In fact, I think I kind of suck. This is where that lack of worthiness comes in, right? And worthiness, lack of worthiness is really underneath all of this, but these are just a few different ways that it presents. So it can present pretty authentically with, I feel like a piece of crap and I'm just criticizing myself and feeling terrible. So give me a 2 in the comments if that happens, because that in that situation, what you're doing is you don't know how to handle it. You're feeling really helpless and you're feeling low enough that you don't have a voice or don't have the confidence to open your mouth and use your voice to be able to get your needs met. And so you shrink, right? You shrink back, you get smaller, which you're not going to get anywhere getting smaller. This world needs us to play big and play authentically, my friends. The more you show up that way, the healthier we are all going to be, and the more collaborative we're all going to be, and the more our soul contracts are going to move smoothly. Okay, so that's number 2. That's victim mentality that I was talking about earlier, okay? Number 3, the way that people respond to this rejection is anger, revenge energy. Give me a 3. Even if you aren't there now, if you've been there before with this abandonment energy, it's like, oh, I feel like I'm going to get rejected. And you know what? I'm pissed. I'm going to get angry at this person for not giving me exactly what it is that I want. And I want to get revenge against them. Like you feel like this venom towards them, which is so toxic for you. So toxic for you. Revenge is all about anger. If you feel like you want to avenge yourself, a lot of people think that's standing in their power. It's absolutely not. It's giving the other person power over you. They have power over you because whatever has unfolded in this situation, you've placed responsibility on them instead of saying, I have responsibility here too. And when I have responsibility, guess what I have? Control and power to shift it and change it and to make my story something else. Okay? When you look at revenge energy, there's a few things you need to do to be able to shift out of that. And remind yourself who you are, coming back to yourself as your own foundation. So number 1, you need to just release the anger. And you can do this in a number of ways. My favorite one is lining up all of the empty aluminum cans and smashing the crap out of them. You can smash it with your hand, your foot, an object, whatever you want. Please be careful. Another one is writing things down and burning it or ripping it to shreds. Another one is physical exercise. Another one is writing a specific letter to the person or situation that you're frustrated with or that you're feeling like you want to avenge. So it's more pointed, it's more directed. It's not just general anger. And then you destroy that ceremoniously. Don't mail it, please. Because I promise you it's not going to be productive. So that's number 1 is releasing the anger. And if you guys have other ways that you release anger that are really effective, please share them in the comments so that other people can benefit. The number 2 thing you need to do when you're in a situation where you feel revenge, after you've released, is I want you to visualize the vision of who you want to be with specificity. This is where you get really specific. What is it that I want to feel? How is it that I want my life to be? How well do I want to feel supported? And I want you to paint that picture for yourself in detail so that you can really sink into and feel into exactly what it feels like to feel so loved and so supported and so successful in your life and your relationships. And I want you to visualize that. Okay? And when you allow yourself to really sink into it, then you're also adopting the vibration that comes along with that vision. So before it's even transpired in your life, you have called it in with your frequency and been able to choose to feel that way. How awesome is that? And talk about taking control back and standing in your power. And that's what we need to do when we feel a sense of abandonment, is stand in our power. Remember our power. That we are not our stories. We are not our past grievances. We get to create a new story. We get to create a new experience in this lifetime. Okay, and then the number 3 step with revenge, after you've released and then visualized this vision or frequency for yourself, the last step is to take one action step towards this feeling. Okay, so that doesn't mean, oh, well, I visualized, a husband, 3 kids, a dog, a white picket fence, and a Hawaii vacation every year. Okay, it doesn't mean that you have to take a step towards those actual items. You want to take a step towards the frequency. So if you visualizing yourself with the husband, the 3 kids, the white fence, and the Hawaii vacation makes you feel joyful, then you sit in that joy. And then when you come out of that, your 3rd step is take one action step towards feeling joy. Okay, so it's not necessarily take one action step towards bringing that whole scene into your human existence at this moment, because that's not always realistic, right? Immediately. But it is realistic for you to say, oh, this is the frequency of joy. Now I know how this feels. This is good. Okay, I'm going to take a step towards bringing more joy into my life, feeling more joy. Okay? And I have one more tool there for that one too, but I'm just going to check on the comments. Yes, Carla, that's true. It changes depending on the who and how you're feeling, for sure. And that's the next actual tool that I was going to tell you guys. Yes, thank you, Carla. Yes, you're taking this venom and you're allowing this anger way too much attention. You know, when we release negative emotions, it's great to do it because they're coming up because they want to get out. They don't want to stay stuck within us. And when we do that, we want to honor these emotions for coming up and being able to be released, but we want to give ourselves a time limit. I usually tell my clients 20 minutes, at which point you shift gears, you shift into that vision, you shift into bringing yourself joy. It takes effort at first, but it will become automatic as you practice it, okay? It will wear you down if you allow it to drive your bus. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. Another good thing is to ask yourself, in 5 years or in 10 years, am I going to care about this? Try to get a little perspective, a little bird's eye view on it, okay? Anger for sure. I broke up a relationship because I was so mad that he wasn't showing up the way I wanted him to. Get shrunk down, didn't speak while I was trying to be the person I thought he wanted me to be because I was too busy people pleasing. Yes, exactly. Thank you so much, Tara, for sharing that so authentically. I honor you so deeply for being able to see that, because the fact that you're here tonight, the fact that you're able to see that, that's a huge step for you towards freedom and relief and being more authentic. Just typing that, stepping into a greater level of your own authenticity and saying, I own this. I am taking responsibility for showing up to this relationship and being a partner in its unfolding and being a partner in its outcome, either its potential outcome or its actual outcome. And trusting implicitly that you know you can create whatever you want and you can bring forward whatever you want. And guess what? The thing that people don't think about 99% of the time when they're in a situation where they feel abandoned and rejected is that the loss of this person or situation is actually opening up space for something even greater to come to you. And I'm telling you, it happens every time. Every time. And the longer that you hold on to that revenge energy and that anger energy towards someone or toward a situation, the longer you are staying emotionally connected and allowing those energetic cords and ties to maintain themselves and stay intact. And as long as you're tied and tethered to this old stuff, guess what? You're being held back from something that could be even greater, particularly your own freedom and your own authenticity. And you'll notice that when you show up that way, you're going to bring people in that are even so much more aligned and help you grow even more to bringing through that vision, right? It's so empowering. Okay. Oh, that's the other tool I was going to share with you guys just around this. So this can be applied to the rejection situation in particular. It can also apply to abandonment generally as well. But the Ho'oponopono prayer. How many of you have heard of the Ho'oponopono prayer? It's so fantastic. It's a very powerful healing prayer. And it was used in Hawaiian communities because when people would have any kind of tension or disagreement within the community, and it could even be just like a mother and her daughter, and they had an argument in their home or something, the community would take responsibility for any kind of tension that existed between anyone in the community. And they would bring these two people out of their home and they would all stand together and they would hold hands and in a circle, and these two people would be in the center of the circle. And they would recite this Ho'oponopono prayer over and over and over again around the scenario, around each of them individually, and then the space between them, until the energy started to soften and loosen a little bit. And this prayer is composed of 4 statements. Thank you. I love you. Please forgive me. I'm sorry. And you can say them in any order you want. And you can even write out specifics for each of those statements when you first start this prayer, and then just continue to recite it as a mantra. But when you envision this situation in which you felt abandoned or rejected, and you envision it at its best. So if it's a person, you're going to envision that person at their best. Really happy, really content, totally in their element, feeling fabulous. You envision them that way, or you envision the situation in a beautiful light, right, in your eyes. And as you do this, you recite the prayer over and over again. And forgiveness, this is a forgiveness prayer. So forgiveness is something that has its own timeline. We don't get to decide how long. So there have been situations and relationships in my life that have taken 8 months for me to consistently repeat the Ho'oponopono mantra when they come into my mind, or when I get sensations or feelings about this person, or thoughts or an image or something like that. And I've done it for a long period of time. And then I have other scenarios in my life that have honestly seemed a lot more traumatic and upsetting and rejecting. And it can take me like 2 days or 2 months or 2 weeks. Okay, so don't judge the length of the process. Be patient with it and trust that it's extremely powerful energetically. There's a psychiatrist who used this prayer up and down the hallways of an inpatient psychiatric facility. And this psychiatric facility, after a number of months, ended up closing down, because I'm not saying that the patients were at 100%, because they weren't, but they were functioning well enough that they didn't have to be in that facility anymore. And he would recite the prayer up and down the hallways in front of the patient's doors while he was reading the patient's charts. So there's a lot of energetic power in it. And a lot of times when we're working with these energetic practices, they might not make logical sense, and you want to know exactly how it works and, you know, the microscopic elements of it that make it effective. But the results speak for themselves. And Ho'oponopono results are absolutely mind-blowing. And I remember when I did it, and I was pissed when I started doing it. I was pissed because I was like, no, she wronged me. No, 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 right? This isn't fair. And I just kept reciting it. And as I would do it, I just started to soften. I could feel myself soften and the energy softening. And what's beautiful is that you're doing it for you, but it also transforms the space in between you and the other person and the other person. So you're really giving the world a gift by doing this work. Okay, so that's another tool. Okay, so lastly, this is ultimately about worthiness, right? So how are you going to show yourself that you are worthy? How are you going to offer yourself a feeling and a sense of worthiness? I'm going to give you one way today, but I want you guys to share them in the comments and also journal about this and ask your own guides or in your own meditations about this, okay? What action steps can you take in your life towards feeling worthy? Actually, I'm going to give you two because I just thought of another. One of the good ways to do this is to determine, where do I already feel confident? Like, where do I already feel worthy and deserving? And like, when I show up, I feel like, yeah, I got my shit together and I know what I'm talking about. Even if it's the tiniest little area in your life. It could be, I'm really awesome at gardening and I'm going to go outside and just like plant my plants and they're so happy and I feel really good about that. Awesome. Do more of it. So it literally can be that simple. Pick something that already makes you feel worthy or accomplished or deserving and do more of it intentionally. Okay? The second thing is more of like a cognitive emotional process. So, how many of you have heard of the 5 love languages or read the book? Say, yeah, I love the 5 love languages, or just put a heart in the comments and let me know if you guys have heard of the 5 love languages or read the book, The 5 Love Languages. It's an awesome tool. It's an awesome tool. So with the 5 love languages, there's a number of different ways that we all express and receive love, okay? And we may express love in a way that's different from the way that we receive love, okay? But it's important to identify what your love language is. Like, my love language is words of affirmation. There's also acts of service. There's physical affection. There's gift giving, okay? So you guys can read more about the 5 love languages, but it's really important to identify what your love language is and serve yourself with your own love language, okay? So for me, this is the tip I'm gonna give you guys today, and then you guys can research your love language on your own as well. So mine's words of affirmation. So that means that I need to give myself words of affirmation to feel worthy, to feel loved deeply and intimately. So I might say, I'm proud of you, Laura. I appreciate you, Laura. I love you so deeply. You mean the world to me, right? Thinking of those things that you want to hear from this other person or from this other situation or scenario in your life, and give it to yourself. Implement it for yourself. Give yourself the language of love that you know you need to receive. Ideally, you want those from other people. But guess what? All you're doing is you're taking that same strategy and you're applying it to yourself. Oh, great. My love language is acts of service. That means I'm going to do more acts of service toward myself. Great. Awesome. What are the things that you can do? I give myself acts of service. For one thing, I take a lot of supplements. Do any of you experience this, that if you take a lot of supplements or vitamins or medication or anything, that you have like your little pill box, right? And you separate them out. I have to do it because I won't freaking remember. So when the pill box runs out, how many of you absolutely hate that? I'm like, oh shit, I have to fill up this whole damn thing again. So that's how I used to feel. I'd be like, oh, I hate sitting down and filling the damn pill box with all my supplements. It's so annoying. But you know what? Number one, first of all, it only takes me like 10, 15 minutes. It's super not a big deal. But once I shifted this into an act of service for myself, it doesn't bother me at all anymore. In fact, you know what it does? It makes me feel like, oh, yay. I actually get to sit down with myself quietly with no one bothering me for 10, 15 minutes. I can put on music I like. I can put on chanting. I can put on mantras. I can put on some of my spiritual videos I like to watch. And I can fill my pill box. And I am being so loving to myself because what I'm doing is I'm making the rest of my week super easy, where I don't have to think, I don't have to count them out every time, 3 times a day, all that. And I know that's a silly example, but it's those little things that you can do for yourself, like setting out your outfit in the morning so that you don't have to think about it at night. Little things like that you can do as acts of service to yourself. So that's your homework, guys, is to determine which one of the 5 love languages do I identify with, and how can I serve myself that love language, and instead of relying on or being pissy with other people because they're not fulfilling it for you. Screw that. Do it for yourself. Carla says, sometimes when it takes a while to forgive a person, I ask myself, what did I do? I love that. I love that. Thank you, Carla, for sharing that. I think it's so beautiful to be able to think backwards to scenarios in which we felt abandoned or rejected, or where we felt really upset, or, like we weren't served in a situation, and think about how we got through it, because we got through it. We're here now, right? So we got through it, we survived, we're functioning. And it's so empowering to be able to say, what were those skills of past me in a previous situation that I can apply again? Because it's not like you're relying on, somebody that you really idealize and or asking your therapist or your coach or your loved ones what to do, although you can still do so, of course. But it's so empowering to be able to say, oh, I actually have these skills and strengths because I've done this before. How did I get through it then? Right? And apply some of those skills now. All right, so does anybody have any questions about abandonment? We talked about being our own safe foundation. We talked about this, not giving up on ourselves completely, turning towards ourselves, because that's ultimately what we are afraid of too, right? Is that we are afraid of giving ourselves love. We don't know how to do it. It feels awkward. And it does feel awkward. When you're not used to it, it feels super awkward. Especially, speaking some of these affirmations in the mirror to ourselves in our eyes. Oh my gosh, super awkward. Get over it and practice it. What do you have to lose? If you've been stuck in something for a while, you're obviously showing up here and listening to this because it serves you in some way. So take that as a sign that you need a greater level of commitment and want a greater level of commitment to yourself. So do it. Practice it. What do you have to lose? So you giggle in front of the mirror. So you feel a little pissy. Write it out. Remember, the average person has 21 mood changes per day. And know that this commitment to yourself will pay off in the long run. Because that's what we want, guys. We want longevity. We don't want Band-Aid techniques that are just going to, help us for 15 minutes or 3 weeks, right? We want stuff that's going to last. Returning to our soul, returning to those soul contracts we created at the bus stop that I talked about earlier. Really implementing these strategies for revenge if that revenge energy comes up. Standing more in our authenticity, returning to that core version of ourselves rather than getting lost in this people-pleasing, desperate, I need, please, please, please mentality. Okay, so let me know if you guys have other questions or thoughts on this. You're welcome to tag me in the post as well, because if you tag me, then I will actually see it. I might miss it if you don't tag me. So please feel free to do that, and I'm happy to get back to any comments as well that have shown up on other Facebook pages. So thank you guys for joining me. I really appreciate you being here. This is the last weekend to sign up for the Akashic Record Certification Program. This is a landmark program that is going to be changing a little bit next year in 2021, and prices are going up significantly. So I would encourage you, I have created so many payment plans for this to make it very accessible to people, because I'm so eager to have people learn these skills and tools, and not just learn them, but internalize them into their lives, to be held accountable for internalizing them and implementing them on a consistent basis so that they become automatic and that you have these skills for the long term. So please feel free to reach out to me if you have questions about the program. I would love to connect with you. And I will see you guys next week. I'm so excited to be back at my regular time on Fridays at 10 a.m. Eastern. Please join me here or say hi on the replay. I love you guys, and I'll see you soon. Bye.